Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Segal. I lead a climate finance program at Environmental Defence Canada. The purpose of our financial system is outdated. We're in a climate crisis. Wildfires are ravaging Alberta in May, with 20,000 people displaced across the province. Charlevoix, Quebec, was significantly wiped out by spring floods, devastating their infrastructure right before the tourist season, which their community relies on. The world's about 1 degree warmer now than it was before our industrial systems started changing the atmosphere through pollution. The warming caused is happening here at home. It's causing devastation here at home and globally, with droughts, famines across the world. Needless to say, these floods, fires, famines, droughts come back to bite the economy. They have impacts which hurt business, hurt investment stability, but most importantly, they're devastating communities and ecosystems in a way that would not have happened if we polluted less. So back to our financial system, whose purpose is outdated. Finance seems vague to many people. Not everyone likes numbers. Most people don't like math. But our financial system is putting money towards polluting in a way that comes back to bite and devastates our communities. Canada can only meet our climate commitments if the financial sector shifts capital out of polluting investments and into climate solutions. And the same is true globally. The world can only keep temperature rise, global warming to the safer levels if the financial sector aligns with the same goal. To be clearer, every single investment that is made by our banks, our pension funds, contributes to something real in the world. They host our money and they invest it into companies, projects, infrastructure. Those investments currently are making climate change worse. They're making climate change worse unless they're actively reducing emissions and investing in projects that build resilience to the damages against climate change. Right now, our Canadian banks, pension funds, insurers invest far more money into oil and gas and coal, which are factually the leading cause of climate change and global warming and the resulting devastation, than they do into renewable energy or energy efficiency. Most big Canadian investors have publicly committed to reducing their emissions from their investments, but they're not taking the commensurate action. As a result, Canada's behind. Capital that we entrust to our banks, financial advisors, pension funds, is disproportionately going to things that make climate change worse, and I highlighted that comes back to bite investment stability. Wildfires certainly put a damper on Main Street strolling and shopping. More acutely, over $100 billion of Canadian assets, our assets, are at risk of becoming obsolete as the energy transition happens globally, because our banks and pension funds are still overinvested in oil, gas, and coal relative to climate solutions and the way the world is going. So an opportunity cost exists here. If we're lagging other regions on moving towards sustainable investing, Canadians, we, are going to miss out on attracting investment opportunities here, and our retirement savings are being put at risk when the rest of the world is looking to greener solutions. And to be clear, Canada is very far behind everyone else when it comes to sustainable investing and shifting dollars towards that new economy. Royal Bank of Canada was the #1 funder of fossil fuels, of polluting investments in 2022. Canadian banks, we're a pretty small population in Canada globally, but Canadian banks, our banks, were responsible for 15% of global fossil fuel funding since the Paris Agreement was signed in 2016 and the world agreed to limit global warming. So we are behind schedule. Moreover, the emissions from Canadian investments are causing pollution that creates damages at home, but also globally. Areas of Africa are experiencing the longest and most severe droughts, leading to famine, loss of livelihood. We have to shift dollars out of polluting investments and into solutions. So global investment into climate solutions has to increase by 20% year over year over the next 7 years until 2030 for us to transition the energy system. Over $4 trillion in clean electricity is needed alone. So these investments need to happen. But if our investments are still going to anachronistic, polluting economy, it's a missed duty globally, but also a missed opportunity. Canadian financial system is not going its way on its own accord. So solutions exist for Canada to bring the financial dollars, private finance, into overall climate policy, into the right direction. Today, Canada has a pretty comprehensive climate plan. Putting into action and delivering it is the next step, but plans exist for electric vehicles, for the oil and gas sector, for an electricity grid, but for finance, that's still the climate policy void. Practical implementable solutions that can be put in place over the next 12 to 24 months exist, and Canada needs to get at it to set those policy solutions. And the reason we need those policy solutions is because, as I pointed out, individual financial institutions aren't going the right direction on their own, but also changing the way the Canadian financial system is oriented is more effective to do in a policy swoop than kind of every institution wrapping their heads around it slowly and finally moving in the right direction. So what needs to happen, the solution, is for policy to shift, to expand the parameters of what finance and investment has to think about. Just like the country has targets to reduce emissions, so should our banks and pension funds. It's pretty simple. Banks and pension funds, all business, make strategic decisions, they set business targets, they execute on them. Emission reductions has to be a key part of that if Canada is going to meet our climate commitments and if the world is going to stay within a safer level of warming. The clear conclusion here is that financial policy, while nerdy, is public policy for our shared Canadian interest, for the financial system to work in our interest as depositors and pensioners. And financial policy is climate policy. It is the policy void in Canada. Aligning finance with our climate commitments is what Canada needs to do for a comprehensive climate plan that delivers on our commitments globally and to our communities here at home. I invite you to follow our work at Environmental Defense for ways that you can engage with us to advance this progress. And I'll invite you just to think about the concept of an investment, right? Investments should make sense for the planet, for the people living on it. Investments should be productive for us. Policy needs to catch up to reorient the goals of our financial system. Thanks for listening to my Walrus talks, and I invite you to stay in touch.